What's up, everyone? Episode 5, week 5. Never thought we'd get here of Meet the Press podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tyler Dixon. My buddy to my left, right, whatever that other direction is, Jared McDonald. What's going on, my man? How's your Sunday?
Not too bad. Pretty chill Sunday. I was out of the office most of the day today. I hear you were doubting us that we'd reached episode 5 of Meet the Press
Of
podcast,
course.
but
Yeah.
I mean, we're rolling. We're cooking with gas now, as the kids say.
I did notice on your Snapchat 1 year ago today, you got a special purchase. So that means like 1 year and a month ago, you were sitting in my living room when you signed up for the motorcycle driver's test.
That's true. Yep, I was in
Yeah.
Owensboro. We were having some beverages,
Yeah.
and I
Lone
had thought
Star, I
about it
think.
before, yeah, and I decided, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull the trigger and learn how to ride a motorcycle. And I did that, took the class, got in kind of on a cancellation list. So I got in last end of April. And then that next week I spent shopping for motorcycles and ended up buying one that Friday. It got delivered that Saturday. I remember it came right after I was done watching the NFL draft, and I barely been off of it since. Put about 7,800 miles on it since then, all over Kentucky.
And I'm not a motorcycle person. I can appreciate them. Like a lot of them I feel like I'm super specific about the bikes that I think are cool looking.
Yeah.
Like I think certain things are cool. Like I don't need the touring with all the other stuff. Yours, I know I've told you this. I feel like yours is a cool bike, and
Thank you.
I'm not just telling you that to like stroke your ego or anything. I do
Oh,
think yours is a cool bike, and I thought that when I saw it originally. Also,
oh, my ego is totally stroked right now. But
I bet it is.
But
Bet it is.
that's how I felt too at first, and that's what I wanted when I got it. But now, like that, I've gotten into it more. It's like every bike I go buy for a different reason. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And like I didn't want a bagger originally, like a touring bike, but now I look at it, I'm like, that's really practical because I
Is that
carry
what
a
it's
back.
called? Bagger?
That's what some people call it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, got to get into circles.
Do
But
you do the little like whenever you're driving by and another one's coming towards you? Do you do the little like thumbs up on the side?
it's like a two finger kind of wave, yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I do that. I remember the
Yeah.
first time I got one. I
Yeah.
didn't expect it, but I was like, "Oh man, I'm part of the gang now." And
That's
it felt so
like
cool, and I love it now.
that's like I mean obviously you're from a small town as well like myself a rural area and you're driving along and you got your hand on the steering wheel and it doesn't matter who you pass it's and somebody's
Every
like, "Oh, who was that?" and you're like, "I don't know."
Yeah,
Like
or
they wave back.
everybody just based on their car from a small town.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah.
it's crazy. Here I
But
don't get that.
luckily we got out of our small towns. I mean, I'm pretty close to mine, but you're a world away.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm enjoying Kentucky right now. Horse racing and
Obviously,
bourbon and whatnot.
you have. Oh man, we could talk hours about bourbon and horse racing. There is that horse racing thing coming up, but first, I feel like you've had a super busy week, work wise.
I would agree with that statement.
Yeah, I mean, you've had some softball stuff going on. A couple guys get drafted. I don't know how common that is for Western. I know we'll talk about it, but I mean, that's a pretty busy week for a one man show.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. The only thing planned before the draft that I had going on was Western Kentucky's softball game against
Mhm.
Alabama, who entered last weekend as the number 2 team in the country in the coaches poll, I believe. There's so
Mhm.
many different college
There's a
baseball and
bunch, yeah,
softball
yeah.
polls, so you see different rankings for everybody all over the place, and it's tough to follow. But I usually go by coaches poll. But they were number 2, dropped 2 or 3 at Texas A&M, so they came into
Mhm.
Western Kentucky as the number 5 team in the country in the coaches poll. And Western Kentucky bounced on them early. Made some great plays in the field, a couple of diving plays from Kennedy Foote and from Taylor Sanders at
Mhm.
right field and third base to kind of keep them in it in that first inning there. Then they came up, put a 3 spot on the board, bottom of the first, and never trailed from there. Came away with the upset victory. Record crowd at the WKU softball complex. It was wild, man. There were people lined up 2 hours before the game. The parking garage out in left field was filled with people. So it was just a really good night there.
I know, and we'll talk about the game itself in a second, but I feel like we talk about money games and all that kind of stuff, but for Alabama, I know maybe for their players going to a place like Bowling Green, a place like Western may not be one that you kind of circle on your calendar, but for Western fans, it's quite the opposite. I know the Davis County softball coach John Biggs was. I know he always goes down to games, and it's an event, and and like you said, people lined up 2 hours before game time, before first pitch. That's fun. I mean, on a college campus, I've been on college campuses where you have had those games. I was at SIU whenever Wichita basketball came in, when Wichita was really good back in the mid 20 teens. And I feel like those are the fun moments because, like you said, I saw your snaps. I had friends that were at games and I saw snaps from them. And that's a fun environment. I'm like, that's what college sports are all about. And I know for you, obviously, you're not a Western fan. May help the story a little bit if Western wins, but I know for you, I mean, it had to be a cool experience as well.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely a cool experience. You don't really see that number of people at Western
Right.
Kentucky softball games. I think they averaged 217.1 fans per game at home games. Heading into that one, the most they had was like 330 something. And
Hmm.
that was in their game before that against Marshall. Series finale there, big one in terms of the CUSA East Division standings. But, to see 1,500 people plus, to see the parking structure, just every level of it lined with people
Right.
watching the game. It's just a weird sight to see, but it
Yeah.
was really cool to see. But yeah, like you said, it definitely helps our page views when
And,
they pull off
and
an upset like that.
and I thought it was super cool. I had the rare opportunity to cover players on both sides of the game with Abby Newman with Western and Kaylee Tao and for Alabama when she played at Madisonville North Hopkins, and I did cover Montana Fouts in a game at her senior year whenever they played Christian County in the state tournament up at Owensboro. I think she threw like 700 pitches that day. Like
Yeah,
it was insane.
that wouldn't
Um,
surprise me.
so that was cool for me seeing those people on the field, and I've done it the last couple years with Kaylee, Montana, and Alabama. Anytime they're on TV, if I'm out at a bar, if I'm somewhere and they're on TV and they do something, I laugh. I'm like, I covered. I saw Kaylee play at Madisonville. Like I saw Montana play in Owensboro and I'm like, these are now on some of the best softball programs in the country, and you covered him in high school. I'm like that's kind of cool for me, and I- I'm getting that moment now. I feel kind of like a dad in that sense because I'm getting older now, and I teach at the high school I went to, so now I'm seeing people that like, oh, I went to school with your older sibling, or I have friends that teach grade school. Like, hey, I went to school with their parents. Like, it's weird now. Like, I feel like that dad mode a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand what you're saying.
Mhm.
You get to know these people that you cover. We talked about that in a
Yeah.
previous episode of the Meet the Press podcast, which you can find on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Go to meetthepresspodcast.com to find that.
Wherever you get your
But
podcasts.
wherever you get your podcasts. But yeah, no, I definitely know what you're saying.
Mhm.
I covered Bouts one time. I didn't even cover her. I saw her play one time in high
Mhm.
school because where we were situated at the Ledger in Maysville, Kentucky, we had some 10th region schools and we had some 16th
Mhm.
region schools. And I never covered her in a game, but I was off that afternoon or something.
Mhm.
And East Carter came and played at Mason County. It was like the first game of the season, so it was
Mhm.
late March, and you know how those games are, like wicked
Ooh.
cold and stuff.
Yeah, wicked
And
cold. Yeah.
wicked cold,
Yeah.
freaking cold, cold in Witch's Tit. But we were out there. I was out there with my boss, who was actually covering the game. I watched her
Mhm.
throw 2 innings. I was like, "Yeah, I've seen enough. She's gonna throw a perfect game. I'm
That
cold. I'm
that
gonna go home." And she threw a perfect game. And
that's when you
that
remember is like you see these kids and like Montana and Kaylee, like you see them one time. It may not be for a long time, but you see them and you recognize, hey, they're good. And like
oh
it
yeah,
sticks in your brain.
yeah, and they're still really good. I mean,
They're
Western
still
got the
really
win the
good.
other
Yeah.
day. Fouts didn't start that game. She pitched all but 2/3 of an inning. I believe Alabama threw their 2 or their 3 to start
Mhm.
off, and then Fouts came in from there. I think she only allowed like one hit after that. for the last 6 1/3 innings or whatever. Um, 5 1/3, whatever it was.
Mhm.
My memory's going with my old age, but there's been so much happening this week, man.
I know, I know. And then I know
A lot of
we've been
unexpected.
we were talking about Bailey, who I am now. You told me his name is not Zap, like it's been in my head this entire time. Um, we thought he would be the first one, and he wasn't. Was that a surprise
No,
or no? He
no,
wasn't.
no.
He
I didn't.
wasn't
I
supposed
didn't
to be
think
the
he'd
first
be
one.
the first one from Western
Oh,
to
okay,
get
okay.
drafted. No. Uh, well, the draft is so like defensively heavy, it seems, and wide receiver
Right.
heavy, especially this year.
Hmm.
Um, D'Angelo Malone's a two-time CUSA Defensive Player of the Year. He was the first Western Kentucky player taken, third round by the Atlanta Falcons. He's a kid that's from Atlanta, so that's really
That's
good for
pretty
him, and
cool.
it's a great
Yeah, that's
opportunity
cool.
for him. But he's one of those big athletic guys, and he's put on weight, put on 15 pounds since
Mhm.
um, the end of the Western Kentucky season. So he's got a good shot to get a lot of opportunity to make a name for himself there and
And third
really
round is kind of
get
that point
involved.
where, yeah, third round is kind of that point where you're not one of those later round picks yet. I mean, you're still second day. I mean, you're second day. You're one that not necessarily just special teams. I mean, you could have a spot on that defense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really like his opportunity. It seems like Atlanta's really trying to, build something
Mhm.
there. Um, there are some teams who are like, yeah, they're still going to be booty, but I feel like that's one that is has some promise to,
Right,
improve over the years just because of the situation that they're in.
right.
And then, like you said, Bailey Zappi gets drafted fourth round. He gets taken on Saturday by the New England Patriots. I know you're not a Patriots fan. You like
Not
another
happy.
another team in the
There are so
AFC.
many. Literally any other team he could have got drafted by, and I would have been like, big Bailey guy over here, man. I would have been like all for it. I don't care.
Okay, well, I kind of feel you with that, because I grew up in New England. I did not like the Patriots growing up, mostly because they were winning and a lot of people were bandwagon fans, and I thought they were kind of annoying. That's really the big reason. I don't have any issue with the organization or anything like that. I think Tom Brady's the goat.
Yeah,
Um,
he's
yeah,
fine.
I mean, it's tough to argue that. I didn't like watching him win growing up, but
It
I
is tough.
appreciate
I
what he
do it. I
did.
do it. It is tough to do, but I do it whenever I need to. Yeah.
But no, I really like that situation for Zappy.
Mhm.
I told somebody, I don't remember who now. Like I said, old age, that memory's going. But I was like, I could see him going to like a Patriots or something. Because a lot of people were kind of doubting him. He's not the biggest guy, you
Mhm.
know, he's not the biggest name. He's not like a star per se.
Right, right.
Despite the fact that he broke NCAA records for passing yards and passing touchdowns in a season. But I think
Mhm.
he's got a good opportunity there to, at least become the backup. Mac Jones, I think, has locked down that starting spot for now,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's still not. I don't think he's like guaranteed to be the future of the organization. It seems like he's a very solid
Okay.
quarterback, but I don't know if he's a Super Bowl level quarterback, like
I mean, they
a
got another
superstar.
quarterback in the first 4 rounds, so, I mean, either they saw something in Zappy that was I mean, and it's Bill Belichick. We don't know what goes on in his head. I mean, heck, didn't they draft a guy from, what was it, Chattanooga at the end of the first round? Is that right?
I don't remember.
Like, I mean,
Possibly, yeah,
Belichick is one of those diamond in the rough kind of guys that
yeah,
if he finds something and he kind of attaches and latches onto it, I mean, it obviously works. As
and
much as I hate it, it works.
yeah, and honestly, it might not be a bad situation too, because just look at the history. When they had
Mhm.
Tom Brady there, look at some of the guys they had behind him. I think
Right?
there was one year they had Tom Brady, they had Jimmy Garoppolo, and then they had Jacoby Brissett, who have all
Yeah.
started games, regularly in the
Yeah.
NFL at some point during their career.
That's a good
So
quarterback room. Yeah.
yeah, and you never know. You never know what could happen. Zappy could be one of these, third day type of guys. You don't want to think about someone getting injured and having to sit
Right.
out or anything like
But
that. But it could be an opportunity, and if he takes advantage of that, you never know what could happen. It could be another situation like that. Not saying it will be by any means, because Tom
right.
Brady, Drew Bledsoe, that's not common. But
Right? It's not.
It's not every day you get a
What was it
all-time
that
best player ever.
whenever DiMaggio had his not Ripken had his streak, his like consecutive game streak, the person he took over for like had a headache that day. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not
You're
sure. I don't know
you're a
that
person
story, but
from up in that. I don't. It was him or somebody else. Like the person he went in for that day had a headache and like didn't play that day, and then that started the streak, and then he obviously did Iron Man things.
yeah. I mean, it was kind of the same thing like Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick too.
Right.
I mean,
That,
they
right.
were
That's
both
true.
really good, and Smith had a concussion. He was out for a while or something like
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
So you never know what could happen, but as long as they get a shot, then that's, I mean, all they can ask for.
See.
And a lot of
See.
it's about taking advantage of the opportunities that you get. I kind of have a funny story. I was doing a story on Josh Simon last year, Western Kentucky's tight end.
Mhm.
They've got a history of putting tight ends in the league with guys like Jack Doyle and Dion Yelder and Tyler Higbee. Um, and I was reaching out to some other players from the area of South Carolina because he's from a very rural area.
Mhm.
Josh Simon is, and reaching out to some of them to talk about what it means to come from that area and excel at the next level. And there's one guy, Tyson Williams, I believe his name is. He was with the Ravens, and I sent an email to them and was like, "Hey, is there any chance I could get an interview with him?" And they're like, "Yeah, we'd love to do this for you. Can we get it done ASAP before we cut the rosters down?" So it was like, "Oh, so he's not going to be here next week." And then
Right. Yeah.
they lose their top two running backs to injury, and then you know what? You watch him throughout the season, and he does a fine job. So it's all about getting an opportunity.
I'm one that, and it sounds bad. It sounds whatever. You got to look out for yourself. I mean, with not to completely go off the rail and switch subjects, everybody's complaining about the transfer portal right now. Obviously, you've had a little taste of that this week with someone we both know, in Jamarian Sharp. But I mean, you got to look out for your bread, man. Like,
Yeah, I,
yeah. But Jamarian Sharp, I mean, I covered him in Hoptown, played for a good friend of mine at John A. Logan. Now he's obviously at Western. Pretty good year last year. What was it? Conference Defense Player of the Year
correct.
in the portal.
Yep.
Surprised?
I don't know. I've kind of gone back. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't
I
know
don't
what
know
to
that.
expect.
Yeah, no, that's
Not like I
fair.
get
You
paid
don't
for
know what
this or
to
anything.
expect.
Yeah, you don't know.
There's
You
1,500
never
kids
know
in the
what's going to
portal.
happen. But for those that don't know, yeah, Jamarion Sharp was a 7'5" center, Western Kentucky for 1 year last year, and like Tyler said, Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year. Averaged just over 8 points and I believe 7.8 rebounds per game or something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Had the NCAA season blocks per game, was number one in the country in that
Mhm.
category. Went in the transfer portal Friday night. It was announced, right before D'Angelo Malone got drafted. So it got to be a little hectic night for me. But
I had prom on Friday night. It was a big night for us all.
who'd you take?
A camera.
Uh, Creepy. But
It is kind of creepy. Now that you say that, now that like I think about it in my
the
head, it
way
is
you
kind of
said
creepy.
that. But
Yeah.
yeah, no,
I just
I
took
don't know.
pictures of like young adults in the dark, man. It's fine. It's whatever. It's kind of like what we used to do in our jobs. Just take
but
pictures of other people. Yeah. But
yeah.
yeah,
No, I don't know if I'm surprised or not because it had been rumored for a while. He's got a lot of upside to him. Everybody said that. We've
he,
talked about that on the podcast before. He
he's
could be
going to
an
league.
NBA draft pick. Yeah,
He will be. Yeah,
just
he will be in the league. I'm okay. He will be in the league. I'm okay saying
yeah.
that. Yeah.
I think he needs to get more of an offensive skill set. He shot at an extremely high percentage this year. I believe the highest single season field goal percentage in Western Kentucky history. But the majority of those makes.
But he needs to fix his offense.
The
I'm not
majority of
making.
those were
Yeah.
dunks. Outside of that, I
Right.
think he shot like 42% outside of shots that weren't dunks. So,
Hmm.
and most of those weren't that far from the basket. But
Right.
defensively, he's just a complete game changer. Even if he's not blocking shots, he's altering the types of shots people take. They're taking bad
Yeah.
shots or not getting in the lane and stuff. So there's so much upside to him,
I
and,
mean,
and
it's a
so it doesn't really
tree.
surprise me.
You're
Yeah,
you're you're coming in the lane, and it's like, hey, let me shoot over this tree. And like you said, if he doesn't block it, that doesn't necessarily harm him. I mean, he alters shots. I mean, if you have an easy layup and he gets in your way and you have to do a reverse, something like that, I mean, that adds to the difficulty. That makes it a harder shot.
Eh,
We've kind of talked about where he could go.
Yeah, I I think Mizzou is the one that everybody's thinking right now, just
I've seen
because of,
Louisville, but yeah, I think those are the two. But yeah,
Coach Smith Peters just got your friend that was at Logan when he was playing there.
that's him. Yep.
I've seen Louisville. I've heard Memphis had some interest too. That Western had played against them fourth game last season, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of it's like we talked about NIL money. What might be a good fit as
Ooh.
well. So it's a tough situation for kids these days because they have to factor in NIL potential and
Mhm.
also potential to better their career. And it's like, well, you never know where your career might go after this one season. So
So where do you stand? NIL, for those who don't know, NIL, name, image, likeness, your ability to get paid for your services. I mean, you're basically a professional athlete. You're getting paid for your name, image, and likeness. Jared McDonald, are you a fan?
I think it's great for college athletes.
Agreed, hundred
They
percent,
bring
100%.
so much to the table to universities.
Mhm,
They get a lot of interest to places people normally never would have heard of. Like,
mhm.
had you ever heard of St. Peter's
I have not.
Be-
I have
before
not.
March? Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Now do you?
I
You
do
know that
now.
they're the
Yes,
Peacocks.
they're the
Yeah, and you
Peacocks.
know that they're in New Jersey.
Mhm.
So
I knew
it's
their head coach. The last time a team from Jersey City went to the NCAA tournament, it was whenever he was the point guard at Seton Hall in 1994,
yeah, and
who
now
he is
he's
now the
making
head
picks.
coach of.
And now that coach is making picks in the NFL draft too. So
Oh, did he? I didn't see that.
he made a guest pick.
Oh, that's
Shaheen
cool.
Holloway did, yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
for the Jets. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But that's neither here nor there.
Still cool. Still cool though.
Yeah, but
I've
we know
never
who it
gotten to
is.
call a draft pick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we know who it is what we're getting at.
that's true. Yes.
But yeah, no, it's a tough situation because now it totally factors into also not just transferring, but whether you go in the draft, whether you don't go in the draft. You look at a player like Oscar Tshiebwe,
Hmm.
who's coming back for another year. It's not just about raising your draft stock anymore, coming back. It's about
Right.
NIL opportunities and also furthering your game beyond that. So there's just so
Hmm.
much that goes into it, and I don't think there's a right or wrong, in any situation, just because there's so much that factors in.
I think in the last I think COVID did a lot of things. I think name, image, likeness. I think that was already obviously in motion before COVID happened and threw a wrench and everything else. I think it's a no-brainer for the amount of money universities and places make off of these high-level athletes that yes, I understand. They get a scholarship, they get food, they get all that other stuff. I get that. But I mean, potentially you're making I mean, you have some of your Power 5, Power 6 programs making millions off of these kids. They're kids. They're 18 when they get there.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And when
for
you work with
you
them, you realize that they really are kids.
they really
Like,
are, right?
yeah,
Um, and I, they just who says they can't provide? I mean, we always talk about, oh, it's great if you have an education, you go to the NBA, you blow your knee out. Oh, we still have a degree. When you're 18, 19 years old, that doesn't mean a damn thing. Like
no,
you're telling me I can have $500,000 to ride around in this BFE Corvette dealership? You tell me they're going to pay me that much money to ride around in a car and I can buy my mom a house. I can pay off this. I can do this. And I can do that as a college student and still get my education. Done deal. Like my brother played college golf. He was a Division 1 athlete. Am I going to see Brady Dixon on a NCAA golf game? No, I'm not. That's fine. I don't care. But Oscar Tshiebwe, if I'm a kid and I want an NCAA basketball game and I'm a Kentucky fan, do you not think I want to have Oscar Tshiebwe blocking somebody's stuff in 6 rows up? Heck yeah, that's what I want. So again, I'm all for it. And I
yeah,
do think in the last 5-10 years there has been a power shift almost to the players because now we have the G League where you can make money in the G League now. I mean, you can make decent money getting ready for the NBA. And I do think there's just been like a power shift, and for some of the old fogies around aren't a huge fan of the players having any control. Whatever. That's
Yeah.
fine. I
And
don't care.
that also goes back to that, the transfer portal and the one-time transfer
Right.
rule. Everybody's like, it seems like they're super unhappy with it. And
Until
you
it
don't know how
benefits
many
them.
times I've seen, why can't Rick Stansbury keep these kids? But there's, probably an average of like 4 kids per team in the portal, like we've talked about on the podcast,
Yeah, I think
which
that's
you
right.
can
I think it's
find
forward per
on
team.
Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go to meetthepresspodcast.com to find it. We've talked about this, but I get the updates on my phone from Twitter from multiple transfer portal accounts. And Friday, the portal closes at midnight Sunday,
Mhm.
or they need to have their intent to enter to the school or something along those lines. But
Yeah.
after this weekend, it's pretty much done. Friday, which was pretty much the last business day for most athletic offices and school offices and whatnot, those behind the scenes people that we never really talk about, the portal was going crazy. My
Yeah.
notifications on my phone were going through the roof. So it's not just one coach can't keep a guy, and a lot of these guys going in are going in for multiple different reasons.
Mhm.
You look at guys that aren't playing and they want to go somewhere where they can actually see some time because they're at a level where maybe it's too high for them to see significant action. They're tired of sitting the bench and they want to play some more. Um, some guys are looking for a bigger school now that they've got their name out there, and
Right.
I think it's really hypocritical when people have an issue with that, but they don't have an
Agreed.
issue with coaches doing the same exact thing and
Agreed.
making multi-million dollars, a year.
Mhm. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and call out Murray State fans because they annoyed me a lot during the whole transfer portal thing. But you complain about the portal until it benefits you. Number one, that's the bottom line. You complain about the portal until you have a guy on your roster that changes your roster and it makes it better. Then you're a huge fan of the portal. Anyway, like you said, there's 1,700 college basketball players in the portal. Maybe at the most there's 17, 1,800. Maybe there's less now. But still, 16, 1,700 in the portal. There's 330, 40 Division I basketball teams. What, 12 a pop, 15 a pop on a roster? The teams that are going to improve with the transfer portal is rarely your Kentuckys, your Dukes. It's your Murray States. It's your teams like that. Teams that you feel you have guys that, yes, you're going to have guys like the kid at Morehead State that I think ended up at Auburn or something. But you're going to have, you're going to have kids like that. You're going to have players that are good enough, got their stock high enough this year, whatever, got to that next level. 90% of the time, it's going to be someone going top to bottom. Because if you're a Kentucky, Keon Brooks, I think, just announced his intent to transfer the other day. He's at Kentucky. Kyle Wiltshire transferred from Kentucky, went to Gonzaga. That was a rare one that it was like maybe kind of on the same level. Johnny Juzang left Kentucky, went to UCLA. It's really hard to leave a school like your Kentuckys, like your Dukes, and go higher.
Yeah.
I think your mid-majors are the ones that truly benefit from the portal whenever it actually happens.
You can't really go much higher than Kentucky if we're being honest.
Right.
And like Kentucky to UCLA, that's blue blood to blue blood. And Juzang was a West Coast kid anyway, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting close to home. So that's a good thing for him personally.
Yeah.
So
and
it all just goes back to what's good for the kid.
Yeah. And if a kid doesn't want to play for you, why keep him there? Like, I've never been married. I've anything like that. But if you're in a marriage and you are like just completely put off by your partner, like, I don't know why you want to stay. Like, why is that? Like, and why would you want to? And if you're an adult, why would you get so bent out of shape of a college kid, a 19-year-old kid, not wanting to play at your school? Like, is that really going to bother you that much?
Yeah, that you don't know and you'll never meet.
Right.
Yeah.
And that literally the only reason you like him is because he's really good at throwing a little piece of rubber into a hoop made of netting. That's the only reason you like him.
Yeah. No.
Rant over.
I think it's pretty raw in the way that things are happening right now. Just because everything is so new.
Right,
I think it'll settle out, and we get the COVID year in there too. That's throwing a whole wrench into everything in terms of eligibility, in terms of recruiting, in terms of transfers. So I think, give it 5 years or so and things will settle out and coaches and players and administrators will figure out the right, quote unquote, or the best way, whatever you want to say, way to
Right.
do things. I think it'll settle out eventually. Everybody's just
And I
they
think
like
that's a
to jump the gun on stuff.
and I think that's a great segue into our question of the week, also known as only question of the week. Have myself or Jared ever covered a game where a player threw up on the field or court? And this person said, our friend Robert Augsdorfer said, I've covered a couple where thankfully they made it into a trash can. I mean, I've covered cross country and stuff enough
Every
to
cross
where,
country meet.
yeah, every cross country meet. I've covered, I had one, I was at Todd County. They were playing Christian County, it was girls basketball. A girl for Christian County, like, I was standing by the trash can and I saw her like look in my direction and go, and I'm like, and I didn't know what was happening. And she threw it right next to me. But
That's
yeah.
that's like an amateur move, standing next to a trash can at a cross country meet.
Oh no, this was at a basketball game.
Oh,
Cross country meet.
okay.
No, cross country meet. I don't even think they use trash cans at cross country meets. I think that's what the earth is for, and they just recycle their fluid into
Fertilizer.
the ground again. Yeah, that's why cross country fields are so fertile and lush.
Now that we know that, but no, I don't know that I've ever covered like a basketball game where someone like threw up on the court or anything. I remember one basketball game specifically. You see a lot of weird things when people start cramping up.
Ooh,
Pickle
yeah.
juice isn't even weird anymore. That's
No,
like
it's a go-to. It's
normal to
go-to.
see. The weirdest one I saw, I was at St. Patrick High School in Maysville, Kentucky. Little school,
I
small
love that
classes.
gym. I
It's
love
like
that gym.
it's like a 2-row gymnasium on the
Yeah,
sides.
love it.
I got to know a lot of people that worked there. Had a lot of fun there. There was one kid. He was cramping up during a game. He had a bottle of French's yellow mustard and was just housing that straight from the bottle on the bench.
Like, was it like a squirt bottle? Like he was.
Yeah, like he would squirt it on a
Aw.
hot dog, but he was squirting it straight into his mouth. It was,
Like he was.
but apparently it worked because he came back in and was fine.
I've had some broken bones. I covered one where it was a high school boys game and there was like a little scrum for the ball underneath one of the baskets. And this kid, like, I didn't even hear anybody hit the ground, see anybody hit the ground. And this kid runs out and goes, it snapped, it snapped. And anytime you hear that, it's not a great thing to hear. And I looked at him and he looked like, I don't know if we have any Harry Potter listeners, watchers, like the scene where the one professor tried to fix his arm after he fell in Quidditch and it just like turns into like rubber. That's what this kid looked like as he ran back to the bench. It was terrifying. Like he was like, it snapped. And the coach is like, it did, but you're going to be okay. Like, and then I've covered some in football. Like I've covered some ACLs and stuff like that in basketball. I've covered probably 2 or 3 ACLs.
Yeah, I feel like ACLs are fairly common these days.
Yeah,
Which is sad to say, but
it's super weird because I feel like that was something growing up that you knew that people had, like you knew that people tore somewhat regularly, but you didn't realize how normal it was.
yeah,
Now, working in a high school, covering high school and college for the last several years, it's a thing. I mean, and seeing that person kind of battle back. I mean, that's a cool thing to see. But that's a conversation for another day.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think I've ever. He did mention he forgot to exclude cross country because obviously that's the identifier for all of us. But I don't know.
I was there at Western Kentucky's game in 2019, I believe, when Charles Bassey broke his leg. I was sitting front row for that, but it wasn't
Ooh.
like one that immediately was like, oh my gosh. It was like he went down and he stayed down. And
I had a friend that was at
at that
the.
point, it was kind of bad because it wasn't like he was holding his knee; it was like his shin. But it's really good to see him battle back from that. Be named
Gosh.
Conference USA's Player of the Year the next year, and now I believe he's an All G League player this year, second or
Yeah,
first team. I don't
I
remember
remember
which.
he walked by me one day at a game, and I was like, "That's a massive human being." Like that's
I really like Charles. He was just a nice kid, man. He was just really nice. The thing that stands out to me was their trainer, athletic trainer John Irwin. says he has a good heart, and I think that's the perfect way to describe that kid.
And that's so. If we've had, I know we've had some consistent listeners, watchers for the last 5 weeks. Um,
Thanks, Mom.
thanks, thanks, Jared's mom and my girlfriend, which may be the only two that we have. I don't think, but I mean that just says something about the women in our life. Um, but I think a good way to end it, and I know we're gonna shop this a little bit, but we work with people on a daily basis. Um, so I think a cool way to like end this every week would be, and this we're gonna shop this name. We've had prize pig of the week, we've had like blue ribbon winner of the week, but I feel like there's something that like if we just want to like give somebody like a little shout out for the end of the week.
Yeah, they get nothing for this except pride.
They get nothing. We don't send them a gift card. We don't send them any accolades whatsoever. They get about a 30-second plug on the podcast, and that's it.
You can put it on your resume if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, I would recommend that. It's probably someone will see that and they'll be like, the Meet the Press Podcast Prize Pig Award. I'm hiring them.
And you could be a multi-time winner. We've never had that before. We've never had a two-time winner of this award in the minutes that we've had it. So I don't know. I guess we'll see next week. Who do you have one yet? I know we said we were going to think about it.
Yeah, I think I've got mine. It goes back
Okay.
to the first conversation that we had today,
Okay.
and that was Western Kentucky softball. I would give mine to Amy Tudor, Western Kentucky softball coach. They had a little bit of trouble this weekend down in Southern Miss, dropped 2 or 3 there, but heading into the final week of the regular season, they're still tied for first in CUSA's East Division. With a good chance to lock up that number 1 seed because they do hold the tiebreaker over Marshall, taking 2 or 3 from them. But just not even for beating Alabama, but for having the program in a situation where you can get Alabama to come play you. One of the best programs in the entire country to come up and play you, and to play with one of the best pitchers in the world, and come away with a win in that game. I just think that says a lot about where the program's at. Record crowd there. They picked up their 700th win earlier this year. Earlier this year, they announced, a roughly $3 million indoor facility for softball and soccer. So the program's just in a really good spot right now, and that's why I think I'd give whatever we're calling this award to Amy Tudor.
I've went back and forth over this a lot in the last 37 minutes and 45 seconds. I think I'm going to give mine to one group, but a lot of groups. So I mentioned earlier, 2 weeks from today is the high school I teach at. It's our graduation class of 2022. So I think I'm going to do like one for like all the high school graduates right now, because being in the position I have been in for the last year, being a high school teacher, number one, it has been completely off the wall every single day, and I never know what the hell they're going to say. Like, I had a student once that told me her greatest fear was if she was a stormtrooper and opening up her lightsaber wrong and stabbing herself in the stomach was the worst way that she thought to go. The second was choking. And I'm like, seriously? Like, the options. So I think for them, like just like the whole class of 2022, specifically my high school, Notre Dame in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, just for them, because graduate 2 weeks from today. I know I remember that time. You remember that time. It was super stressful, and I teach seniors, and I see them excited to graduate, but at the same time, nervous as heck about going off to that next step. So I'm going to give it to them because we just got done with senior week. They did absolutely nothing in the last week in school. So hopefully my seniors are ready to work a little bit this week.
And that's the way it should be. You should go out of your high school career doing absolutely nothing, enjoying your classmates that you might never see again, or your teachers.
I told them I'd be their friends after they graduated. I can't be their friends now, but once you graduate, I can be your friend. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. That's probably a good rule to have.
It's probably safer.
Probably.
But that's
Yeah.
all the time we've got this week. Jared, I appreciate it as usual, my friends. We'll see you
Yep.
next week.
Absolutely.